like to, I guess, make a motion to add to the agenda some discussion about the forensics that we talked about last week.
Okay. So we have a motion to add an item to the agenda this evening, which would be under discussion and business items. Probably just move it to the end. So it'd be item D, which is, one more time, can you state the,
Regarding the Wakefield forensics team.
okay? So we have a motion. I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Now I'll move that we approve the agenda as presented just now.
Second.
Motion to approve and second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Thanks to everybody for being here in the audience and online as well, anyone that's listening. First thing is to receive communications. I did have something that I wanted to bring up in this piece, something that I continue to hear quite a bit about from community members, patrons and such. Now that we have the OWL and we are video streaming, it's been brought to my attention that it would be favorable for most people that are watching online if we did vote by roll call. I don't know if anybody else has had anybody mention that to them. I wanted to mention that, but I think that that would be what our community would like to do at this point. Anybody else have anything to add?
I mean, on that topic or just communication?
Well, on that topic or communication in general.
I've heard about the bus stop. Sure, a lot of fun, so.
And we have a piece later on this evening that we'll be talking about that as well. So I did go ahead and have August help me put together a roll call form, very similar to what we did when we did the revenue neutral rate last month. So I think according to at least the people that I've heard from, that would be helpful. So the OWL doesn't travel when we don't speak, so they don't know the results of motions. Okay. So citizens open forum would be next. It looks like we have two individuals this evening that want to present to the board. The first would be Duff Campbell. However, before you go, sir, I would like to just read the general guidelines that we adhere to real quick. The board appreciates patrons taking time to talk to us about our policies and procedures. We set aside this time every meeting to hear from the public. Your comments should be directed towards board policies or the procedures our administrators established to carry out those policies. This is not an appropriate time or place for patrons to make comments of a personal nature about any district employee or student. Persons making comments which violate the privacy rights of district employees and students will be asked to stop speaking or cease their remarks. If a patron or parent has a concern with one or more employees, the board will refer that person to the appropriate administrator and the board will follow up at a future meeting. Persons speaking will be allowed 3 minutes each to express their opinions. In cases where a large number of patrons have similar opinions, a single speaker should be chosen to represent the larger group. Thank you for taking your time to discuss district business with the board. You want to come forward? And the topic of discussion is stadium.
Or can I go right here?
Sure, wherever you're comfortable.
First off, you, everyone in your seat was chosen in an election to represent your constituents. Is that correct? Your constituents overwhelmingly several years ago, and as well as you know, recently, did not want the new stadium. Okay? Now, the ones that voted for the new stadium knew that their constituents did not want it. But they decided on their own to vote for it, although their constituents in the majority did not want it. As an example, about 3 weeks ago, me and probably 2 or 3 other people went around in a week. We got over 700 signatures of people that did not want the new stadium. How dare you people, you voted against what your constituents wanted. We showed you this before, but you guys don't seem to be paying attention. I don't understand. But good luck in the next election. Okay, I've got a couple quick things to talk about. One is the turf AstroTurf. I'm gonna need my glasses for a second. Today, CBS News came out today. Here's the headline. Super Bowl 2022, Odell Beckham Jr. injuries cause National Football League stars to advocate for banning turf fields in stadiums. We, in the last couple months, have given you expert testimony from several people who told you about the injuries with turf as opposed to grass. Okay, September 30th, the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, bans artificial turf in parks due to toxic forever chemicals. And these are called PFASs. Those are all carcinogens. They cause cancer. And that's what the turf is made of. Okay? Next subject. We have a serious concern. We have some individuals measure the track at the new, out by the high school. We don't even know if the track's the right length or not. We have serious concerns over that. We're going to check into that later on this week. It was told by us that it was certified as an official track. I talked to the KSHAA today. They don't have certifications. So whoever told us that lied. There's nobody at KSHAA that certifies it. So I would like to know how that information became available.
Okay. We're at 4 minutes left, so we'll have to wrap it up. Thank you for sharing your information.
All right, I've several other things, but that's it. In 3 minutes.
That's, yes. Thank you. Next on the list is Ryan Wilson to discuss representing the dispatch about open records.
Hi there. It's been an interesting week. I know I've written a few unpopular editorials. Last Friday, my sports writer got quite a bit of flack from coaches, and so he was going to be denied access. That happened on Monday, but by Tuesday we did have access again. We're also told by the principal, Greg Ferguson, that
Sir,
coaches.
can you please leave the names out of your information?
Okay.
We
No
say
names,
directly,
please.
we can't speak about direct employees.
No names,
It's in our
please.
policy.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I did ask for a to be put on the agenda and was told this was my only route. So
It is your only route, sir, at this point, but you still can't mention names regardless.
okay, I'll do my best not to do that.
Thank you.
But anyway, I was told that coaches would no longer write up reports instead for us. Instead, they would write them up for KCLY. That raises open records concern, because once a record is created, it's open no matter who it's created for. We also looked into our open records request, since this seemed to be an open records issue as well. And it looked like that there have been several requests that we've made that were unanswered. And so I brought these concerns to school board attorney Dusty Mullen over here. we arranged a meeting with the administration, and I think we've come to a resolution, but I have to say I'm still concerned because, you know, the first response was to basically use the open records law to make it as cumbersome as possible, so we'll get information in a less timely manner. That concerns me. I think as far as I think for the most part, though, I think these let's call them a misunderstanding, was not intending to violate the law, and I think we've come to a resolution where you know, I think things just slipped through the crack. So I think that we found a solution where with a little bit more oversight, we have a process where that's not going to happen as much. And I'm happy with that. I'm pleased that we went from a very hostile situation to some kind of resolution. But I think it's worth raising these concerns and let you know what happened. You know, like I said, I know the editorial was not popular with administration, or probably not even with the school board, but it's something I firmly believe. And my goal here is to make this community a better one for everyone, not just a select few. So please consider that.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you.
So next we'll move on to positive board comments. Anyone wants to share anything?
I am prepared today. I want to first congratulate our 2 CCCHS golfers and 4 tennis players who qualified for state today and this last weekend. I want to thank all the coaches, ADs, staff, drivers, and others who make it possible for our kids to participate in so many great extracurricular activities. And again, our district, no matter what you're interested in, you can find something, some way to be actively involved. I want to appreciate the great communication that we're getting from the teachers and admins. I've got kids right now at Garfield Middle School and High School, and I feel like if with very little effort, I can find out what's going on, even if I do miss deadlines still. And then I want to thank, I was looking at the consent agenda, and I just want to take a minute to thank the many individuals, organizations, and businesses who continue to donate to our school in many different ways. We wouldn't be able to do the things that we can for our kids if it wasn't for the community support. We appreciate it. Anybody else?
Okay, thank you, Linda. Let's move on to consent agenda. Consent agenda that needs further discussion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. I'm going to take a call. We're going to vote by roll call. So, sorry, I fumbled through this for a second. Jeff Canizzo,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Paige,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and April. Yes. Okay. Consent agenda approved 7-0. Okay, next item is reports. Anybody have any board reports to share today? Okay, if not, then we'll move on to Mr. Nelson, superintendent report.
Yeah, the first one, again, if you pull up, if you have access, pull up my board report, put the chart from September 20th in here. And the SO 66 was submitted today at 5 o'clock, and I think it was due today at 5 o'clock. And so the SO 66 is the report that culminates all of this information, and it includes a lot of work from a lot of people, from our building secretaries to our building principals. Then once it gets up here, it's touched by many people to make sure that our data is valid and accurate. Our enrollment, again, continues to look like we're very steady. Along with, you know, the separation between FTE and headcount. The biggest differences there is, of course, at your preschool, our 0.5 FT instead of 1. And so that's the main difference as you look at FT versus head count. When you look at the number that's used for a base aid per pupil, one important thing to note is that's a September 20th number, and that will change specifically with preschool, because with child find and the requirements within IDEA, as children turn 3 years old and qualify for IEPs, they are added to our responsibility to serve, which is a very good thing. But that's why they do a second count in December. And so when they do that second count, it will adjust this base aid per pupil number. And so I would anticipate us being, if we look at past years, we'll probably be very steady as it relates to our base aid per pupil number moving forward. It's significant to note that Wakefield did increase the significant number of kids. They brought in a very large group of students in kindergarten. And so they have 25 students in the kindergarten class in Wakefield. We did add and approve an additional 8 to help in that classroom, to help with the larger number. And so that's great to see. I think it was, a few years ago, that number is up by 40 or so kids. So that's really good news. The KSB 2023 state resolutions. This is the time of year when, as you know, every school district, I think all 286 school districts are a member of KSB for the services that they provide to us, whether that be legal, whether that be advocating at the state level. But this is the time of year when they start developing their state resolutions, and essentially that's their mission and their priorities, the things and topics that they're going to really work on and advocate for, especially at the state level. Elections in November, and then the legislators come back in January. And so KSB developed these resolutions, and I went to their Region 4 session in a couple weeks ago, and all of our region soups were there. Senator Hawk was there. Regional House Representative member, and received some pretty good feedback from them and some good questions, and they were open to taking those questions. And so I'll just walk through a few things that I believe are going to be highly important for us to be really focused on, and I think locally that we can really help advocate for as we go into the legislative session. And probably one of the largest ones that we need to continue to focus on and educate deals with the special education being funded at its statutory responsibility. And so statutorily, it's supposed to be funded at 92%. And so in the last few years, the last decade, it's hovered around the 70% mark. And so I'm trying to bring some information to you and to our community for what does that really mean for us. And so I do have a chart that's rather compelling, I think. That's probably better, but over a 10-year period, we as a school district have supplemented special education beyond in the statutory requirement by $6 million in 10 years. And Jacqueline, can I put my screen up there just really quick? And so this chart shows the amount that we've supplemented in the last decade to the special education program. And I want to be clear, special education it's a very important program. It's a necessary program. We have to have it. We're required by law to serve students qualifying for this program. And because it's required by law for us to do this, that's why it's statutorily supposed to be funded at 92%. But this is what it means for us. So we take our flow through, our aid out, what we receive. This is how much every year that we have supplemented special education. And I just ask, for us, we have a new representative that will get elected in November. There's a race going on now, and so the feedback we got from existing senators and legislators was, you know, when they posture and do their thing in January in Topeka, they hear from each other all the time. They hear from the same representatives. And it was asked at Region 4 meeting, well, how do we move the needle on this? How do we truly share? What is the best way for the people? Because the committees are where the important work happens. So your Education and Finance Committee or whatever the topic might be. And their number one was response was, this has to come from you locally. What is important for you locally, we have to hear from you. Because if we don't hear from you, we don't advocate for it when we get to Topeka. And so I will get this chart to you guys so that you can utilize this. And I hope as we go into this, whether it be elections or the legislative session, that you have some data. And that's something that as SOUPs we asked for from KSB was, you know, the one pagers, the flyers, the factual information, not 10 pages, not 15 pages, but a one pager on these highly important issues that are affecting us so that we can share data with our constituents and that you guys have data available to you that you can talk real numbers with your elected officials. But we're on track to supplement special education by another $700,000 this year. Imagine the additional raises that we could have given with an extra $700,000. It's significant, and I just really wanted to take some time to point some of those things out. I think the from my perspective, I think their student targets, student achievement targets that KSB is focused on are highly important. They really talked a lot about, there seems to be a lot of rhetoric around state assessments and from certain legislators in Topeka. And so something that's highly important is for us to understand what it is that we're looking at when we look at state assessment scores, not only locally, but as a state. Levels 3 and 4. Anyone know the average students that scored in level 3, what their average ACT score was? I think I had it. in my notes somewhere.
You have to answer it.
Was it 24?
24. Yeah. And so, and I can stop driving here. Jacqueline, you can have it back before I forget I'm driving. But the state resolutions, the items noted in red are the ones that KSB is going to work hard advocating for. And on top of that, when we talk to Leah Fleiter, she's one of their main voices, lobbyists. And she repeated and reinforced the same thing. You know, when she gets to testify in a committee, that committee hears from her all the time and might give her 30 seconds. And, you know, an out-of-state math program from somewhere else, 30 minutes. And she said the same thing. We're going to continue advocating. We're going to do our job. But if they don't hear from you locally, your people, things won't change. And so those are some of the big things to watch out for is what happens with school finance and that committee. The Gannon case says that the new base aid per pupil is supposed to be funded based on the cost of living index. That's how 3% or the 3-year average, I believe, of the cost of living index, which is based on inflation rates. And so that's going to be highly important that we talk to our local officials, regardless of who is elected locally, is we are paying inflation costs just like everybody across our state and our nation are. And if our increase in base aid per pupil doesn't adequately address that increase, we are affected just like we are individually, whether it be food or fuel or energy or just the added cost of things. And so they were looking at, and I'm not gonna be exact here, but fairly close, I think. The cost of living increase with the 3-year average inflation rate is beyond the statutory required 3%, because they had set numbers the last few years, and then that ends next year and they go to the 3% minimum or the 3-year average. And so they threw some initial numbers out, and I can't remember whenever the new number comes out, but as it stands now, we should be looking at closer to a 5% 3-year average number, which would be huge for us to be able to cover some additional expenses and hopefully continue to give our staff raises. And so I think special education and that school finance formula using that cost of living 3-year average is highly, highly important.
Last year at KASB conference that I attended, I went to a session on advocacy. It was very helpful. And I'm planning to reach out again to Senator Hawk, because he's our only elected official at this point, for bring your legislator to work or to school. And I know I've worked with Ms. Pullman before, but to have him come to the school so that he sees us and sees our school and remembers to advocate for us. But I plan to go to another advocacy session next month when we go to KASB, just so that we can be as big an advocate to the state legislature as we can, because that education committee is volatile.
And there should be some good sessions available there. Anita did invite our local representative last spring to one of our TELEC meetings that represents our 5 school districts, and we all advocated, and that was received well. And so once we know who our local representative is going to be, we are going to invite them to a TELEC meeting too, so we can talk truly about what that underfunding means for us locally. So just hopefully we can all just be committed to being engaged. I will do my best to share facts with you and data so that you have it and that you can use that if you do choose to visit with your local representatives. So Beyond the Fences Teaching in Rural America, this was a project that we were selected for. There was a I think 3 to 5 school districts. On ours, was it just 3?
Lewiston, us, and
And so K-State had a grant, and they went and wrote a grant to try to advocate and recruit teachers to rural Kansas schools. And they spent, I don't know, at least 5 days in our district in Clay Center in Wakefield, and interviewed staff, took video of staff, did some drone footage, some fun things. And they're having a reveal on October 13th at 1:10 in the K-State Student Union. They're going to show it to students, and we hope that it can be used as a really great recruiting tool. And so excited to see that final product, and hopefully it's something that we can use to recruit staff to our district. And we're very lucky fully staffed on the certified side at all of our schools, because that is not the norm. And I do believe that's a testament to the value that we bring and provide to new employees. And so that's something to really celebrate this day and age, that we are fully staffed and that young people are choosing our district. And so I hope we can continue that momentum. That's
Mrs. Lane's going to, she's going to be on the panel. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yep, they'll have a
Okay.
panel for the students to ask questions about what it's like teaching in the rural school district in Kansas. And Mrs. Lane brings a great perspective because she has taught and worked in both settings and has a strong opinion on which one's more positive. And so she'll be on a panel at the K-State panel, and will be there to ask and answer questions of staff. And Jacqueline and I'll attend, and any of you guys are welcome to attend too. It should be a fun event. I think and K-State's going to use it to recruit
It's
nationally.
this Thursday. I need to check on one thing, but I may show up.
I'm hoping to get we have it, but get at least our portion that we can share with our public and with you guys and Berkeley County or whomever could use it to.
What time
Recruiting
again?
purposes.
On Thursday?
110. That's all I have.
questions for Mr. Nelson? All right, let's move on then to Anita's report, and she's not here this evening. She's attending a Board of Education meeting in Glasgow. But anybody have any comments from? Okay, then we'll move on to Jacqueline's Director of Curriculum and Instruction report.
Right, I am going to print for you guys. I made a little timeline graphic that just kind of talks about this year, just so you'll kind of know what's coming up. But our district leadership team met last week, and we continued preparing for our outside visitation team as well as our needs assessment next cycle. And so within that visual, you'll see that December, January time where you guys are going to review goals, mission statement, and those type of things, and then how that plays into us actually setting our goals underneath that after you all do that in December and January. So I will print that before you go, but we had just a half day morning for our district leadership team, and then a couple of them came back and kind of smoothed over the report. You're handing your work for the last 6 years over to somebody 2 hours away here to read. So you want to make sure you're telling your story and telling it well. And so we worked on that and continue to. So let's see, the 26th, that one has passed. Just kind of little update on some of those dates. This Friday is the end of Q1, so the afternoon will be a work day for our teachers. And in preparation for conferences next week. So I put a little, I had the principals, I don't know if they all had it in their principals building report or not, but kind of made sure it was all together here, had them share out what they plan to do for conference time. And then on the back, I give you the updated project lead numbers as of today. And we saw a little decrease at Lincoln and Garfield, and then a very nice increase at Wakefield in participation. It's hard to tell you how many kids are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. That's just who's done the Google sign up. So and we have people dropping in all the time wanting to add. And so that's why you'll occasionally see more staff being added, because I know all 3 programs could always use some extra hands. So I gave a little glimpse there of our professional learning opportunities, some that have passed and some that are coming up. And then wanted to update you, we had our first meeting for our ELA adoption review, and went through our data as well as some research and kind of reviews of other works. I will say, as we go through this practice, we review what we're doing now and what else is out there that could help us. Is what we're doing working, or is it not? So we have an elementary team and a secondary team. The elementary team has grade level representation, and then a lower elementary and an upper elementary for Wakefield. So on November 11th, all of the elementary teachers will be together, because every single one of them, K-5, teaches ELA, and that will give them a chance to share back with their colleagues. For the most part, all of our secondary ELA have been involved, but depending on the day, it might be hard to get a sub. So the 11th will be used for them as well to have that time together. Wellness team, we had our first meeting, and just to report, we had about 80 staff participate in our first semester activities September, and that's about the same as we did the last time we had that, and it was well received by those who did it. We're planning a semester 2 activity, and we're getting some feedback from our staff to see which way they want to go. We looked at the wellness components that are required federally, as well as at the state level, and we reviewed our smart snacks compliance. And on November 11th, our PE teachers are going to review their physical education programming activities. It's a rubric, and so we're going to mark where we are, and then have them kind of give some suggestions for first order and second order changes to help us move to the right on those. What are some easy things that can be put in, and then of course, what's your dream? So anyways, we'll get feedback from them in November. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Then we'll move on to, did you have something?
No, I'm just,
Okay. And we'll move on then to our Director of Food Service, Andrew Cunningham.
no, I got
No,
federal
she's
Just kidding.
programs.
federal.
Sorry.
I
I was
did
trying to
too.
catch you out.
That's okay. Oh. Okay, so
My
I,
bad. Federal programs.
gotcha. Okay, so I have the report here of our federal programs, and just to report, we report these as a district. And elementary, our free and reduced is up from 41% to 50.87. Middle school, age range, we're down a smidge, and high school, we're down a smidge, but as a district, we're up from 41% to 44.74. So we kind of had been sharing that we expected that just from looking at the Medicaid waivers going into our direct service. So as far as federal funds go for Title I, Title IIA, and Title IV, not the after-school program, but the other one above it. Those are, our amounts are based off of the census, and so obviously that's only done every 10 years, and so they just fluctuate depending on how much money is received federally. And so in Title I, we have 215,000, so we're down a little this year in that one. And that one is used for intervention teachers, and we use at-risk funds at the buildings that we don't use title at. And then for Title IIA, we are down 4,000, and that is for like teacher recruitment and retention, professional development. So that one is down. And then the Title IV stayed steady, and which was nice to see. Our Title IV after-school grants, you can see what the allotted amounts are. Lincoln and Garfield are in year 2 of 5 at 100,000. Wakefield is in year 3 of 5, and they had a little bit more budgeted for this year. So, and then down below, I put who received our Perkins funds for the year. All of our Perkins money of this nature runs through Smoky Hill. We're part of the consortium down there, and we get an allotted amount. And we put together a team here. It's composed of CTE teachers that represent different pathways and clusters. And the teachers put in a request, and then the team, they work through it and decide who they would like to see receive the funds. We keep track, so we know who has received it. If they get to something that costs more than what we have, the principals and myself are in here, and we'll see what we can do to help them. So just gave you a little glimpse there. I know not the health science supplies, but the other 3 pieces of equipment have been ordered, and some of them are here. The professional development kind of goes throughout the whole year. And then we've not ordered our supplies yet for health science, but we will do so by December.
So those other items are here, we're using them. Okay, cool, great. Any questions? Sorry, just
You have Perkins grant every year, is that just?
kind of excited to get to the food service because we haven't had it yet, so sorry to jump on.
That's okay.
Okay, all right. Well, next we have then Andrea Cunningham to give the report for food service.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Cunningham. I'm the food service director here for the Clay County School District. This is Alicia Askew. She is the district manager. We are with Chartwell's K-12 for the contract food service management company. We've got some slides we'll go through.
I just switched to my computer.
at the menu that y'all had this evening was the same menu that the high school kids had today. We were missing maybe a couple of items, but otherwise those were the choices that they had today on the menu. So chicken and waffles, so a lot of different stations, 6 different stations at the high school actually. So that was representative of most of those stations.
It was crazy good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I
I
appreciate
mean,
that.
that was awesome.
I appreciate that. I did send it to you, right? Yeah, okay.
But the chicken bacon pizza was my favorite. And the brownie.
The chicken bacon ranch is by far the
Okay.
favorite
It was
pizza
really good.
flavor that we have, yeah. We're gonna go like this. All right, that'll work. Go for it. Okay, so we're gonna talk about our team, some meal count information, some of the challenges that we're trying to overcome and have overcome in the past, and then what's for lunch. Let's go ahead. So this is a picture of our team. We're currently at 18 team members. We have 1 lead at each school. All of those leads are Serve Safe certified. If you're familiar with that program, it's a science-based program sponsored by the National Restaurant Association. It's pretty in-depth. So we spent a day, all the leads went through it, passed and have their certification. So food, it doesn't matter how great it tastes. It doesn't matter how beautiful it is. If it's not safe to eat, then the other things don't matter. So food safety is very important. We do have 1 part-time position open in Wakefield at the moment, but otherwise we're fully staffed. Also that same staff, we are inspected by the Kansas Department of Agriculture twice a year and also by the Department of Education. All schools were inspected by the Department of Ag and we all passed inspection with no violations. So we're pretty proud about that. Thanks, Jacqueline. And so participation, this will just give some information about some prior school years. You can see that participation has indeed increased. This year, the red box in the bottom, if we're looking at September 21 to 22, obviously things are not free anymore. So that has affected our meal count. So breakfast, we're at about 30% of where we were. So that's where we've taken the largest hit. And then our lunch, we're at about 80% of where we were. We are indeed working to improve those numbers, and we'll cover some of that on a future slide. So the supply chain is still not normal. It makes it difficult sometimes to put together a menu. Certain things will be out of stock and then they'll come back into stock. But we are working with our supplier Cisco every Tuesday. We call to check our orders to see what's coming, what's not coming, and adjust accordingly. We're back to paid meals. So again, breakfast is our largest opportunity. So we're going to look at things like maybe bringing back second breakfast at some of those locations that decided to stop. We've sent out some information, sort of a did you know, if you're eligible for free and reduced lunch, you're also eligible for free and reduced breakfast. So again, trying to get those kids to come in and take care of the breakfast meals. We're putting things in newsletters, just trying to get the word out there that we do have breakfast available. And then team member staffing, again, right now we're setting pretty good. That can change anytime, but in the last year, hiring has been an issue. A lot of folks have dealt with that, but we're setting pretty good at the moment.
How consistent is that? Like, what is your average turnover per month?
Gosh, you know, we're actually pretty lucky that we don't have a whole lot of turnover. For instance, I hired 6 new people to start the school year with, and I've lost 1. So that's not so bad. That's not so bad. So these are some pictures. They're not, I guess, maybe the lighting, but this just gives some idea of what we're feeding the kids for lunch. So we have a pepperoni pizza on the top slide.
This picture's better.
Oh, yeah, that one's better. Oh, much better. An example of a salad bar, some of the things on a salad bar, I believe that one's in Wakefield. And then at the high school specifically, we try and put out display plates. So as the kids come through the lines, they can see what they're actually being offered for lunch. So Monica's one of my lead cooks at the high school, and she's pretty creative when it comes to the display plate. So nice job, Monica. Okay, so this, all the credit for this slide goes to Mr. Weller. We offered pizza at Garfield and Lincoln, and so that young gentleman is super excited to see pizza. And then again, the smaller pictures are some posts that Mr. Weller put out there for us, pictures of pizzas cooking and pizzas getting ready to be served. We make all our pizza from scratch each day. You might recognize that young man. So again, another display plate, that's meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and a biscuit. And then he's pretty excited to have his lunch. So this one, this is what we're looking forward to for 22-23 school year. As always, we're going to keep working on menus. We're going to take things off that the kids don't like, put things on that they want, try new recipes, and then always training, trying to up our game as far as service and culinary skills. Continue principal feedback meetings. If there's a site council meeting, a STUCO meeting, and you would like for me to be there, I would love to attend. So the more feedback I can get, the better that helps me make decisions as far as menuing. Again, the site council meetings, STUCO meetings, whatever, I'll be there. And then also things like surveys to the principals and that kind of thing. Just again, any way to get feedback. And if you're wondering why there are pictures of equipment, growing the relationship. We have a great relationship with the district and we're very appreciative of that. So those pictures are all items that have been purchased for different schools. So we have a 3-door reach-in fridge that was put in at the middle school, or it's a freezer, I'm sorry, which has been a game changer. A salad bar at Wakefield, a wonderful combi oven at Lincoln, and then some new trays at Wakefield. So again, we appreciate that you put that money back in and reinvest. We have a couple of different programs that we offer. These are just 2 of them. So one is Discovery Kitchen, and each month there's a theme. We try and get to all schools and talk about these themes, provide recipe cards, let them try things, give out samples. So we did one in August for powering up with breakfast. We served breakfast for lunch, which was fun. And then we also have one called the Moodies or Mood Boost. That's the next slide, Jacqueline. Thank you very much. And so the Discovery Kitchen is where the older kids, Mood Boost is geared more towards the younger grades, and it just helps them understand how what they eat can affect their mood and how certain foods can actually help them feel more calm or more confident. So again, there are trading cards that can be given away. We set up a pop-up type thing, and it's just a lot of fun for everybody. So those are 2 programs that we'll be focusing on in 22-23. That's all the information I have. Do y'all have questions? Anything I can answer?
We talk a lot about food in my house. And I appreciate that you guys don't stray away from taste, from flavors, from spices. You know, that they're getting even more of an appreciation that, hey, that buffalo chicken sauce is okay. Mixing flavors and being brave enough to try new things. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. It can be a challenge, right? We're limited in how much salt we can use, how much fat there is. We don't have fryers. So flavor is really important. So we use a lot of spices and seasonings. Yeah, gotta be good.
I will second that also. My kid has commented multiple times on the flavor of the food. The only negative that I've heard recently was, I don't know if maybe, have you guys changed your portion size in the high school? I just have heard a little bit that some of the high school kids feel like they're getting maybe elementary portion sizes or need a little bit more to keep them full through practice, you know, through the rest of the day.
And it might depend on what that item is. For instance, when we offer chicken tenders as an entree, they get 3 chicken tenders. When we serve them with chicken and waffles, they get 2. So it may be something like that, but if there's something specific, gosh, if you'll let me know, I would love to look into that. usually, by and large, all the kids get the same serving size. Because otherwise it adds a level of complexity, trying to make sure that we have the right serving utensils going out to all the different schools. So it's almost better to just give everybody the same serving size, although often it's too much for the littles. But if there are specifics, I would really like to.
I'm super thankful for this relationship for our kids. There are kids that have great options at school now for eating nutritious meals. And that is an important component of learning, is that the kids are, full and ready for their afternoon, and to give them options of something that they're going to eat, and so that they're ready to learn is, I'm thankful that we have this relationship with Chartwells and can provide that for our students.
Thank you. We feel the same.
It's
We
been
do.
great.
It's,
been
I
great.
want to second that. I mean, this partnership is awesome, and it's going to be really cool to see what happens over the next couple of years when we are able to execute some of these special programs,
Yeah.
right? To do more of that display cooking in front of the kiddos and have them walk around with their recipe cards and, doing the fun stuff that really makes Chartwells. So we're excited to get started this year. And then one additional item that I wanted to add, and Andrew and I had talked about, our regional chef. He is very involved with a lot of the things that Andrew does as far as reviewing menus, giving feedback, doing site visits. So he's going to be a big part of some of these special programs that we'll be executing this year as well.
Very much for coming.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you. And I left the stack of business cards out by the buffet line. Please, any feedback, I'd be glad to hear from any of you.
Awesome.
Thanks
Thank
a
you
bunch.
all
Thank
very
you.
much. Yeah.
Thank you for coming tonight.
That takes us to item G. So Mr. McCoy is not here this evening.
Yeah, Mike couldn't be here this evening. He had a personal emergency come up, and we're in our thoughts, prayers for sure, but he's, so we are gonna move his annual report. And just so you guys, COVID kind of disrupted our rotation of annual reports from our directors. We're bringing that back this year, and we have them on a regular Board of Education agenda. So we'll get back on rotation of making sure that you guys hear our annual reports from all of our directors. And so in the coming months, you'll hear from Mr. Easterberg and Mr. Last coming up in the next couple of months. I did want to briefly address, even though we'll kick his report to next month, some of the questions revolve around the in-town busing schedule that has been in the planning phase and research phase for the last 3 months. Mike's worked really hard at developing the new in-town busing schedule, specifically to address a couple of challenges. Number one, the driver shortage. After some evaluation and analysis, he feels pretty good about being able to adjust our rotation and hopefully be a little bit more efficient as it relates to routes and drivers, which is really important now because one driver means is a huge deal to that department right now in regards to staffing. I think one morning this week, we had to lock the bus barn, and every single mechanic, secretary, every single person was driving out. And so one person has a huge effect on that. The other piece is our littles and our current system are hubbing off of 2 or 3 buses before they get on their final bus to get home. So they'll hop on a bus at one school, go to another school, get off that bus, and get onto another bus before they go home. And it causes lots of confusion for our smallest students doing that. And so that was a big initiative for Mr. McCoy and our principals, everyone who deals with buses before and after school, was how can we get our students on the bus that they're going home on. And so this transit system will allow us to our students to get on their animal bus, or it be the rabbit bus or the squirrel bus or whatever, and they stay on that bus and it takes them home. Another efficiency piece was we currently use our country buses to do the in-town routes, which mean we have our county 632 square miles. it's big. And when you're having to take a bus to the furthest north, northwest corner or southwest corner, it's a long ways. And so, a lot of our country riders, they're getting on at 6:30, 6:40 a.m. and they're not getting home till 4:30. And so by doing a transit system, not only does it make us more efficient, but it also should get most of our country riders home significantly earlier than they were in the old system. And so that's been a significant push too. I think today I was talking with Wynn and she said he's driven these new routes probably 10 times in the last month and a half at the times that those buses are going to be doing it. Driven every stop, timed it. He's had folks from the street department ride with him. He's consulted with the police department, developed a great relationship with the city, and the city in coordination with the collaboration has gone and, again, driven those routes multiple times morning and afternoon to gauge traffic patterns, to gauge the environment at that time that stop's scheduled for, and has collaborated with the city, and they're going to, the city's going to actually paint bus stop on the curb stops to identify the bus stop. We're going to put signs up. And like, there's some of the concerns have been, well, what about, that particular location? And I met with our drivers, with Mike, with Wynn for a couple of hours 2 weeks ago, and their number one safety concern was not the location of the stop, but training the students how to approach that bus stop and where they stage at that bus stop. So our current policy has always been in place, and something that has never changed is if your student is second grade or younger, they've always been required to have an adult with them at their stop. And that's something that we're continuing to help with, that safety piece but by marking the stops, marking the locations and identifying them, the training piece will be the next pieces. Here's where you queue up, kids. You don't come running at the bus as it's pulling up because you have an identified mark, and using those routines and teaching to have those identified mark spots so our kids know very clearly where that is, whereas now it's not necessarily marked by a painted curve or with a sign. And so all of those things should help a lot. Mike is very well aware that, even though he's run this route himself and with others multiple times, there's going to be adjustments, based on how many kids are getting, now that they're changing, there might be more of a traffic pattern. One of the biggest misconceptions that we're going to work on, but I didn't want to send something out and misspeak for Mike, because I haven't been in, this is his baby and he knows all the details, and I don't want to misspeak, but one, I think, yeah, there you go. One of the, I think, misconceptions, and it's just a communication thing, but the misconception was that the route leaving Lincoln was going to stop at the bottom, and it doesn't. That transit continues to loop back up and around and finish the stops all the way to Lincoln. So, and we're gonna, as soon as Mike is in a situation where we can clarify. So I think a lot of people read it when my Lincoln kiddo gets on, or when my Lincoln student gets on a bus.
Sorry, I'm like totally screwing this up and it's, okay, I'll stop.
They thought they stop here, but the bus continues. Because they drop off here, and roll call means, hey, who do we have left on the bus? And we come back to the top and we hit the necessary stops that have a student on it until we get to here. And so every student still hits their drop-off spot. And so we just need to clear that up. And I think that was the point that several questions came from. So
We've written it and made a little video, and we'll see with going like, I mean, just trying to describe it.
and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is, this is a very special service that USD 379 provides because of the uniqueness of having two highways go through our town. Most, if not, I don't want to misspeak, but I would say the vast majority of school districts, even if they have two major highways going through down, don't offer this. And so in most other school districts, if you live in town, you don't have the option to ride a bus. And so that's a special program that we offer and that we provide.
And from the state, we do not get funded to provide in-town busing. That is a
2.5
service.
miles, right?
You have to be 2.5 miles outside of your service center. So.
And change is hard, you know, this route still accomplishes that no student won't cross a major highway. It is gonna be different and it's gonna be change and, you know, we'll continue to monitor it and make adjustments as needed, but it accomplishes a lot of things from an efficiency standpoint, a safety standpoint, a lot of things. So excited to give it a try, and we just ask that people are willing to try new things. And even if your student may have to walk an extra half a block, if you look at big picture, it probably means that somebody on the other side of town is walking, instead of 3 blocks, they're only walking maybe a block now. And so I know it's hard to look outside of our purview sometimes, but
And those country kids are going to be able to get home in a much more prompt manner, which some of them were spending 30 minutes just driving around town before they would even leave the city limits. And that's an important component too.
sure.
4th Street and 9th Street just concern me, but they'll look itself out.
You say, and there will be somebody there now, so like 4th Street, that 4th and Garfield, there's no sidewalks there or anything, so there'll be somebody there to tell them, like where they can.
We're gonna develop in
Congregate.
some of the higher traffic areas or the larger change areas, we'll have some staff there to help monitor kids, educate, especially in the beginning stages until we get folks trained. But it's really important that parents do realize too, that if you have a student that's under the age of 2nd grade, we do require that they're supervised by an adult for those safety reasons. And so
Okay, any other further comments or questions? And we'll hear Mike's report next month
and probably have an update on this.
and probably have an update on it. Okay. Okay, that takes us then to our discussion of business items. We have 4 with the addition this evening. So the first one is the voting delegate for 2022 Delegate Assembly. Quite a bit of information and conversation kind of out and about, right? Various things that we get from KESB as well. So you know, we as a board needs to decide, you know, what our position, most definitely for the advocacy part as well, but having the opportunity to vote on, you know, putting somebody in place that's going to vote on proposed changes to KESB, our legislative positions and priorities, and that will also guide the association's legislative efforts. You want to add here?
This is just an opportunity for us, if you guys would so choose, to be involved and have a true voice with KSB, since we are a member district, and have a voting position to where we can help have some feedback on the direction that our organization as KSB is headed. So
And so the logistics of this, and somebody help me, because I've not ever done this either. So the delegate assembly is on Saturday, November 12th, which is also in conjunction with the KASB annual convention. The assembly will be both in person and virtually. The times are given here. And then it gives some additional details. I don't know if anybody on the board has suggestions.
I think it would be as simple as somebody that would be willing to just say, hey, I'd be willing. And
Just do we have any volunteers?
I would like to unvolunteer if somebody else would like to do it instead.
So the individuals that we have signed up at this point, right, we have an in-person, you can also do it virtually, but at this point in time, Jason, myself, Paige, and Linda, right, is that correct? Mr. Nelson will be attending the conference in person on that Friday and Saturday. Speaking out of turn for anybody, so.
It's just a lunch meeting.
Yeah.
As one of
This
the
one is.
choices. So, I mean, I'm fine doing it, I'm fine, you guys electing the president to do it. It's not. I don't know that it.
I would prefer if you want to do it, that'd be fantastic.
Great. I am being voluntold, if I'm being voluntold, I will be,
That would be
I will
awesome.
attend that lunch while we're at KASB.
Okay, very good. We don't need to.
Let me know how you want me to vote. I will be your voice.
Dustin, do we need to vote on that?
Um,
I feel like we should.
probably ought to, since you're making them official, that would be a bad idea to approve.
That's true.
I'll just appoint you as our delegate.
I accept. Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, very good. So then moving on. I think that we need to talk about alternates. Okay. Next item is district goals. So we first discussed this last month, and Mr. Nelson's been working with a couple of folks at KASB, and they put together a timeline. Jacqueline touched on it earlier. So I'm gonna present some of that information.
Yeah, so
that he
this is
talked about.
their busy time of year when they're out supporting school districts all across our state. So I think dates, as even between the last time I spoke to them and now some of the dates, they had filled up with other school districts doing the same process. And so the first step would be to take a look at where we could bring KSB in. They would walk you through the training of what setting vision, mission, and goals looks like. Walk you through the timeline, get feedback from you on the process, maybe some things that you guys would like to see, how it was shaped, get some feedback from you, share a brief sample of a community survey that they use. They have a generic one, but they always like feedback on making it unique for each school district, which will be a big tool that's used to solicit feedback from the entire county. And so kind of those things they would like to schedule with you to lay out the process, talk about the process. What does it entail? What does it involve? Take a brief look at some of those top pieces during the week of October 25th through the 27th. An hour and a half max, but walking through the timeline, setting the schedule, setting the objectives, soliciting feedback from you on the important pieces of this process. And then and again, some of these are hypothetical. These are date ranges depending on where we end up, but this was a sample that they provided that was pretty in line with what they've done with other school districts. And so the first step is after you go through your training, you kind of set KSB out on the mission that you want them to do. Hey, what's community feedback look like to you? What do you want to see in this survey? What are the important pieces? Then KSB will begin sending out invites. They're going to ask you, who do you want at the table? Who do you want to solicit feedback from? And then they will work on sending the invites out to those individuals to take part in the community discussion. So they'll have the district-wide survey, but then they'll ask you to help develop a focus group. And they put a number of I think 25 people is their minimum. And so they like to have, the way I understand it, maybe even a few more than that. And so they would set that, they would get the communication out to those individuals. Then the district-wide survey would go out. And then December 5th, we discussed looking at kind of that work session to where the way it was kind of described to me is that's where we develop priorities based on your feedback and the community members. And so they would likely, the way it was kind of described to me is they divvy up board members. You're kind of, each of you will be with a group of people, and then they'll put together the activity and they'll walk us all through an activity on soliciting feedback from you and the community that the community members that you're sitting with. And they have a tool that they use to collect the important pieces or topics, what's rising to the top of importance for you and our community members. And they put that in kind of do a SWOT analysis, put that into theme areas, and they'll start developing theme areas. And then we would follow that out with another community and board. They would have some of that data that was collected at the first community meeting, disaggregated and put into groups and categories. And then they'll walk us all through another activity to begin narrowing and talking about what's rising to the top, what's important, what kind of themes and topics need to be included within our district goals. And then on January 16th, they're going to bring back all that refined data from those two community groups and walk you through another process on reviewing those goal focus areas, reflecting on the input that was received by the community, and walk you through their recommendations for you and final action steps to establish those goals. That's it in a nutshell. So I think we just, unless you guys see something that you would like them to change or tweak, but that is their intent of the first initial meeting with you on that week of the 23rd.
Are we gonna hear from the citizens review committee before this starts?
That I think that could come up and you could talk to KSB about that at the planning session and say, hey, this was this is a process that we walked through. We'd like to have this included. I think that would be.
I actually never heard a report on that though.
Right.
But
So
that's what he's saying. is
have
that
it
that would
a
be
part of the goal
that.
setting process. Might be appropriate.
December 12th is our normal school board meeting, correct?
It is, yeah. It's the second Monday.
Did you go?
So he asked if we could have a lighter agenda, school board meeting agenda at the beginning, and then take care of the rest. And I said, I think we might be able to accomplish that. If we can have a light agenda, take care of personnel, take care of the important pieces, maybe reduce some reports, get the essential business that we need done. I know dates are hard to come by, and so I thought, and if you guys have it on your calendar already, and we could have a light agenda and take care of this work, but I'm open to.
One of those sheets that we get every month from the thing, I was just reading back on some old ones today, and they actually, that was a recommendation that we maximize our time by having maybe some little workshops prior to a meeting or after a meeting,
since
like
they're
that type
already
of
on
thing. It maximizes your time. Yep.
So we need to probably then come up with the date that works best for us for October the 25th to 27th. You said about an hour and a half. Is that about right? Okay. That's a Tuesday through Tuesday or Thursday. And I have an after prom committee meeting that Tuesday, so that might not work.
I know Wednesdays are usually light activity days. What's that?
So I usually in the meeting, I use group on Wednesday that I can have somebody go into if that's
Okay.
needed.
Work until 7 PM on Wednesdays.
What about
Thursday?
Thursday?
Thursday, clear for me.
Thursday the 27th.
Any day, it doesn't matter to me.
How about you?
There's always something, so pick one.
That's right. And I'm hour and a half is for safety. Hopefully an hour would do it, but I don't want to cut time short if you guys need that time with them.
What time did you start? 6 work? So we will meet then Thursday, October the 27th at 6 PM.
How long? Just out of curiosity.
Hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
In August, you'll have to get notice for a special meeting. So, with one agenda item. Just call it training with board and timeline review, just call it what's on there.
Okay, any other questions, comments about the process?
So then the
December
only dates then that we would also need to have down would be the 5th and the 12th. And then are we wanting to go ahead and pick a date in January for the,
Based on his feedback on how fast their calendars are
I
filling up
just
with the same
I
work.
think it would be advantageous for us
Okay.
since we all have our calendars out anyway to be proactive with KASB's calendar.
So the November 1st timeframe though is just then,
They're gonna take information that you provide them.
And send it.
and send it.
okay, so there's no additional meeting necessary. For the 15th, so December the 5th. Sounds like it's gonna be our responsibility to lead a team of community members, so are we all available on December the 5th? Is it Monday? Okay, assuming the 12th works for everyone, since it's a regular board meeting, let's look at January. So January 16th through 19th, that is some Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
No
No school on the 16th. The high school calendar, that's the Hillsborough basketball tournament for Play Center and the center tournament for Wakefield. I don't know if that affects people, that's like just pulling it.
We met
good old
last year on,
School calendar.
Did we meet that day?
Well, that's our school board
The ninth
date.
is your-
Oh, the 9th is our school board date. Okay.
Yeah, I think we met on that day for some reason last year.
I think it was.
That's when
Was
Jerry
it-
called.
That's right, it was.
I mean, I could also suggest we do regular
Do we do the night?
board meeting. He said he has an hour on its schedule. You guys just want to keep it on that date and
You can be ready a week in advance, then I think that would be great. For January the 9th. Let's ask if that works.
I'm open to it.
And this should hit our TISA timeline perfectly so that whatever you guys send us out as goals to work on, we will then work with our district leadership team starting in February to develop the long and short-term objectives and goals that we'll set out to achieve whatever goals that you guys set. So
Anything else anybody wants to discuss? All right, so then let's move on then to item C, which is the multi-purpose activity complex construction planning. And Adam's here. Join us. Welcome back. Hello.
I'll tee it up and then you take it from there. We received 10 bids from vendors and contractors for the project and the scope that VHS helped us develop. Have a copy of, just kind of run through a few. We want to just kind of run through each one. And the bids that we're recommending for award, they do accomplish all of the original intended scope of work that we asked for. Think, I don't know if you guys want to go, if you have questions, if you want to go through each, if you want to talk about the scope of work or what we have in here, or just kind of have the information in front of you, and see what you want to.
So my first question was just as I was walking through the different proposals, why did one company like include some parts and not include another, or I'm not
No, that's a
a
good question.
professional contractor, so I was curious why they included some things and others.
So we did issue scopes of work, which were published previously, but
Yes.
inclusion exclusion list. With a project like this, not all companies do all things related to their particular pieces of work. And so that was a big part of why we went through the process to establish exactly what the companies were providing in their price and what they were not.
Okay.
The
So
requirement.
that's why like some people included design, some people didn't, maybe their company doesn't offer that portion.
That would be the reason for going through that process.
Okay,
To determine what work was in and what work was not in the price. And
So
then
we're
if,
comparing also apples to apples,
yeah,
also at the end of the day.
we are.
Right.
And that allows the district to apples to apples, identify where you need to supplement and where you don't, to get what the true cost of that particular package of work is gonna be.
So like, for instance, the one that you're recommending to go with on the field turf, they don't want to do they excluded the parking lot entry, so who's going to do that?
The parking lot entry was moved to owner scope, mainly because it's just lies outside the scope of work that turf companies typically provide. And asking, or making the request to design a drive is just a little bit different than designing the field. And so
Is that the drive off of 12th Street into the
that
parking
would
lot?
be a continuation of 12th Street North, for roughly 150 feet, to have that entry to help with the traffic flow there. Really on Prospect Street. north of the state, north of the
12th and Prospect.
facility. Yeah. So you gotta help that in and out traffic flow. So moving that to owner scope, really it saves the district money, and it's not a difficult scope of work to complete. But if you don't do it every day, you don't price it as competitively as the items you do. Yeah. That's the reason why. And there were a number of items like that
Mhm.
throughout the process, which are the reasons for the process.
Yes, I'm not sure what the entry gate, the pillars and the arch is gonna look like, but if you add a driveway onto that, I think 17,000 will get it.
It's outside of it. I don't want to misspeak, but it's in the other owner scope piece.
It's minimal. It's not a grand entryway by any means. It's a very basic identifiable entryway. Design's not really my specialty, but setting a budget aside to do some design with, hey, the fence component's gonna cost about this. Here's a budget to do a masonry pillar or a concrete pillar or a salvaged limestone pillar, something like that, just to set that money aside, so that way it can, once a vision is somewhat put together by the district, then there's some money there to work with. Yeah.
And a hope and a vision would be that the buyer of Auto en route would allow us to harvest some stone and include that in the entryway in your pillars. That's a hope and a vision that would come to fruition, that we would be able to utilize some of the stone from Auto en route and incorporate it into the entrance. We have another individual in the community who's very interested again in kind work at being able to, again, it's an if, but it's a vision, a hope that the archways on the face west on Auto en route would like to harvest the arches out of Auto en route and incorporate those arches into some piece to the stadium.
Did they include all timeline? So this would be, they would try to get it done this fall or spring, or is that yet to be determined?
It's somewhat yet to be determined. The work is likely, under the current scenario, likely to start this winter and be completely done before football of 23, the way things are shaping up right now. That's mainly due to weather and track season, and you can't spray track surfacing if it's cold. And so you kind of have to wait for the weather to come up before you can complete that scope of work. But the owner scope items, which the district and the high school building trades are going to take on, they can start with this process. They can start soon, and they can work through the school year on items that aren't affecting practices.
So where's that concession stand dollar number at? Is that the owner scope?
Owner scope. And so the way we put that together is it's a material package for the district to buy, and then the building trades class too.
So that's also part of the 17,000.
There's two
No,
owners.
there's There's
That's not,
separate.
it's separated on that.
So is the second
Information
underscope,
that we were
17,000 is the pretties, for lack of a better word, and the other one is the materials in the driveway?
It was a breakout at the gate, just so that could stand alone, because there's
Jason's for the-
some interest in
Yeah, I wasn't looking at
some-
that.
in
Just
how
wanna make
that's
sure
gonna
you know
look.
which parts.
But then the other owner scope for roughly
22 and 5.
That's your materials for your concession stand. Materials for some concrete walks, some concrete steps, some handrails, rock for that driveway, things like that, or in that. That is a mainly material quote, except for MEP, where we did receive bids from local MEPs, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, to put together. It's still a design for a package for that concession stand, but so that way. those trades involved.
So like in there are subs that would be advanced electric to do the electrical and the concession. And we got a number from them. Harvey Clean will do the plumbing.
And then Carlson on HVAC. for
Carlson.
a couple of years. I mean, it's,
And McGee will likely have some part in the roof.
they were interested in a big portion of that roof.
So how much money is all that?
Seven-
So that's
70
on top of the two
No,
twenty-two?
it's in the
in the
222.
It's in that two
Roughly
twenty-two?
75,000 of that is mechanical, electrical, plumbing. 48, 12, and 23. something like that. And then,
So originally that concession stand was $680,000.
I bid that, so that way the folks who gave me bids who would likely, after I realized what they were looking like that's likely gonna be a school project, I'm likely not gonna play a part. I wanted to make sure that their numbers were in before 2 o'clock on bid day. In that way, there was no, it was after the fact that their number was there. So they got it to me, I turned it in. And I just turned them over. I'm out of it, but you guys have the information from those contractors. And more or less, we scoped them to, since it's design build, you could turn in anything you want. You didn't have to do what I put together, but with that plan, they at least turned it in ahead of time. So that way, they can turn over and do the work as part of the project. So yeah, that's roughly 75,000 of the $222.
Is a mechanical part.
Is mechanical, electrical, plumbing.
So now we're down to 150,000 to build the building.
The materials on the building, and then you got to pull it back. There's still some aggregate, some rock in there for the drive and some concrete for site paving in there that you need to back out before you're looking at just the building.
So you're down to 125,000 to build the building. Time you do site work and put gravel for that drive.
Yeah, you're in that neighborhood. It has materials on it.
Other than just the check marks on the page, what's the difference between the $900,000 bid and the $1.5 million bid? It didn't include the driveway or the design, but surely that's not $500,000.
Can't tell you, because since it's bid, I don't honestly know. And that's kind of the enigma of the current situation. We don't know. But it's a part of the reason why that scope got pared back after those bids were thrown out. Maybe it was work the contractor didn't feel comfortable doing. Maybe it was risk on material prices rising. It could be a number of things. But it creates a lot of questions. It creates questions on our end too, just in our industry. So, but part of this process was to make sure that initial proposals were going to match final costs through whatever avenue the district chose to get the project done, should it move forward.
We're pretty much, I assume this is right, but say we go with this $990,000 bid, they can't ask for any more.
It's through, that was through a cooperative, so that stuff is pre-priced. For the scope of work as put together, it is pre-priced. So I have to go back, that would have to follow those guidelines, and I'm not exactly sure what they all are, but it should be a
not to exceed
Not to
price
exceed type
through
price.
Greenbush. And so our contract won't be with the turf company. Our contract will be with Greenbush. And it's really a protection for the school district. And because the company we hire, which for the turf is Sprint Turf, they're gonna be held accountable from Greenbush. And they can't exceed Greenbush's contract because they pre-bid their scope. And Doug's here. I don't know, Doug, if you want to elaborate on that at all, feel free. But they're held accountable by Greenbush. It's not a turf company coming straight to us and saying, hey, here's our price. And then they come change order us next week. They can't under their contract with Greenbush.
I didn't know if this sounded like a school bus.
Right. Right.
No, there will be no change orders. That we hired Brian, worked with Brian Foster at United Sports System out of Wichita, Kansas. He's been building tracks and turf fields, primarily does a lot of the work with the military. I mean, he's built Peterson Air Force Base, the track and the turf field, and he goes down to San Antonio. At that base, just completed the track. He's done turf fields at Quantico Marine Base in Norfolk. And so he doesn't like change orders either. And so we're locked into the price because of Greenbush as well. So unless you change the scope, when you're talking about the track respray, moving the high jump pad or the pole vault pad to the other side, all of the turf, all of the infill installation, the base rock, which is a 6-inch profile of drainage stone, as well as drainage. And there will be no change orders for that. If you change the scope,
So if
then
we
there
ask
could be,
for
but there
another
isn't.
logo, if we ask for a different logo than what is in there.
Well, not necessarily. As long as it's, I think it's 3 colors specified and the right size. You can have any logo you want. You want to do a CC or whatever.
So the electrical bid. How many poles do you think we need on that?
You want to kind of walk through that?
Yeah, so
Well,
that's,
you have 4 up there now.
that's set up there currently. Is the current 6 pole setup up there in place. There's a few conflicts with where existing poles sit for where the bleachers are gonna go. The visitors bleachers sit right over the pole on the east side 50. And the home bleachers sit right over the pole on the west side 50. So that cuts 2 poles right there just by moving in the new bleachers. And then those poles that are there, the other 4 remaining poles, they have, I think, 4 heads apiece. Because they're trying to cover track events as well as football field events, which isn't always the case. So anyway, the most cost-friendly way to do this was not to bring in all new, a complete new system with brand new poles. Poles are pretty expensive. But Matt's proposal there that's moving forward is to salvage the poles from Unruh, but move them up to the high school on new engineered footings and put new heads on there to get the foot candle up across the field to the neighborhood of 40 foot candle. I think currently Matt took readings with a foot candle reader, Matt with advanced. I think you're at 10 up there currently with all those lights on.
Yeah, but my understanding is that, I understand they're gonna upgrade the lighting, but how many poles? Okay, you got 2 that are in the way of bleachers. Okay, so we relocate those and then you're taking poles from the other field. How many poles are gonna end up there?
You will have 8.
Seems like an awful lot.
It's still the most cost-effective way to do it. So yeah, it's more than 4. The other companies were 4 new poles is what the other pricings typically represent are 4 new poles, 70 and 80 foot tall with new arrangements of LED heads. That's the easiest way to put it.
So he'll harvest the 70-foot poles from Auto Unruh, bring them up to the field, do new engineered footings, set the poles and put new LED stacks on the 4 Unruh pole. Anyone know what the current foot candle is at Auto Unruh? The highest reading he got was 20, and most of them were in the mid-teens. And so we'll be the new map, it's between 40 and 50 on the field with the current setup.
Typically, the new, if you went all new, you'd have much larger poles and you'd have far more heads per pole. If you just went with the 4 brand new ones, they put like 20 heads a piece on those things, and your pole just has to be just engineered for it. And unfortunately, older poles weren't. So
I say 8 poles sounds like an awful lot for a football field. I've been on a lot of football fields and I don't remember there being 8 poles.
yeah, it's not typical by any means. It's not. But this project kind of came together with untypical methods too. So
That's for sure.
it happened to be the most cost friendly, which yeah, I was glad the idea was there.
Any other questions?
Said something about the press box in there.
Yes, there is a press box included in the.
We're talking about making it bigger or something.
Yeah, there's currently an 8x30 in the scope and bid.
Yeah.
And we did ask for alternates for a larger one, and we're provided an alternate. I think it was
89,000, I believe, to go to an 8x60 double extend.
So there was some concern with having enough room. Everyone wants more space, but that was something that we would have to look at, and if we could accomplish it, whether through soliciting, more donations or using district funds. But that's something that of everything that, after meeting with all the parties involved, we're checking off the boxes on all of our needs, and this is one that has been requested as considering upgrading.
So be an additional 90,000 essentially.
To double the size from 8x30.
Do we have any update from the foundation, whether there was more funds still coming in, or have you expected us later?
I think they have maybe $5,000 in the account now.
When would we have to decide that by?
An upgrade, we'd probably have to check with our bleacher vendor and find out lead times.
That would be the first part. Check with them, see how much time they have from the approvals order. That would be your key time there, but not much. You need to act fast.
I'd like to see a breakdown of what the owner's scope involves and cost per item. How much is going to be spent on the concession stand? How much is going to be set down on the road? How much on sidewalks?
Sure, you've got that.
Yep, I have.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, because I just, you mentioned about in-kind work. I think if somebody's going to do in-kind work for the district, it ought to be accepted as a donation in some fashion.
Yeah, you betcha. Absolutely.
And a dollar figure put to that. I would think if somebody was doing that, they would want it for tax purposes, but.
And I can help with that because I took bids.
Yeah.
Although they won't be awarded or moving forward. I've got a value for today for that work that I can provide. Brett's
I'm just
actually-
saying, I think we need to, I'd like to see that. I mean, what are we spending? I know our shop class is gonna do some of it, but. And I need where we're putting our money as far as that goes, especially talking $240,000.
So then, and so the next step, if you guys approve, then the next step would be obviously, number one is getting with our building trades teacher, administrator, and our CAD teacher, and saying, okay, here's a go, and we get the materials packaged, and they'll start building walls just like they did for the Tiger. Get them all lined out and going, and then we would get together with all of our individuals who have shown interest in doing the in-kind work, put together a schedule, put together the costs, and then we'll show that to you. So that's kind of next steps if we didn't want to go too far unless we knew that we had the authority to go. So beyond BHS getting hard numbers from people for it. So
then we do have a recommendation, so I'm gonna make a motion. I'd like to move to give final approval to the bids and budget as presented for the Market Chapman Activity Complex.
So the bids that we're accepting are the lights, the bleacher press box, the turf, the scoreboard.
Correct.
Just the 8x30, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
For the time
Yes.
being.
Motion and second.
Well, the turf and the track is all together.
Questions? We're gonna vote by roll. Angie,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Paige,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
April, yes. Motion carries 7-0. So that takes us to item D, which was added, which is the Wakefield forensics piece that Deb wants to discuss.
So I would just like to bring up rediscussion. We talked about and voted to do a cooperative last month for Wakefield to combine with Clay Center. Some additional information kind of came to light to me since then. And of course, I know we also have kind of some additional information provided to us this month. And I just wanted to kind of, so like, we kind of saw how the called the track thing when the cross country team collaborated. We had a great cross country team at Wakefield, healthy, strong, lots of kids. When we combined, it brought it down to, I think we had just a couple the first year, and I don't believe we have any. I don't believe we had any cross-country team last year at all. So, you know, I know we were looking at cost effect. We were looking at the fact that we have the same forensics teacher, both in Clay Center and in Wakefield. But it was brought to my attention that we do have someone certified at Wakefield that could coach the forensics team. And that also the team is fairly small. So it's not like the transportation, we wouldn't have to hire a bus driver. We wouldn't have to get a bus for that. They could take the Tahoe and the coach could drive. So we're not looking at huge costs to transport the team to their meetings. And I just would like us to reconsider that. And also just the fact of like the team work concept as far as those students being part of the Wakefield team and having that Wakefield pride. So I just wondered if any of you guys would consider reevaluating that and potentially dissolving that offer that we decided on last month.
It would require another supplemental contract, right? How much do we, we're asking, how much is it for supplemental contract for a?
Depends on experience. As long as we play in, I'll get the low.
So the biggest reason was for doing it, the request started with the teacher. The teacher brought it to the administrators brought it to us. And the reason it started with the teacher was because it's really a unique situation because she does teach forensics at Clay Center High School and Wakefield High School. And so she saw last year an area of possible improvement, especially at Wakefield. I think Clay Center went to 13 events last year, and I think Wakefield went to 3. And so in her mind, she came to her principals and said, hey, I'm already going to 13. I'm already teaching both classes. Can they hop in? Sure. The only difference is as long as they never practice together, that still works. The teacher's goal was to kind of have a team within a team and have them separated. They have their own shirts. Yeah, on the sheet, it would say Clay Center High School, Wakefield High School team. But her goal would be to get them together monthly or bi-monthly, I think is what she said. as a unit before they head out. But that was her, she was looking at this opportunity for kids and so.
How would that work?
What's that?
Get them together.
I don't know.
I don't think it's possible.
Zoom.
Well, yeah, but then you gotta pull the kids out of the classes that are in when she's in the classes up here.
Well, they practice.
They practice after school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but you know, the definition of a cooperative agreement is when you do a cooperative agreement, you become one team, according to Keisha. So there would be no Wakefield Clay Center. They couldn't wear separate shirts. They'd have to be Clay Center / Wakefield as one team, according to Keisha.
They could wear different shirts.
Well, not through the eyes of Keisha. Keisha's saying you're one team, you wear one uniform, you practice together all the time when you have a cooperative agreement. That's according to Fran Martin at the Keisha.
Was cross-country a cooperative agreement?
Yep.
Because they were separate.
They separate, the only time they're separate in a
Regionals?
cooperative
Regionals.
agreement is when you go to regionals and states.
Okay.
So the biggest difference is if you guys don't want to go with the teacher's recommendation, then we would just, you'd have to guide me to do that. And I'd just tell her that, hey, it's separate, there's no cooperative, you can't practice together.
Could we not do a USD 3719? Stop doing
That's-
the us versus them.
Well, that's where the cooperative agreement would come in.
I mean.
But in the eyes of the Keisha, it would be Clay Center / Wakefield. It wouldn't be USD 3700. That's how those cooperative agreements work. I mean, I got from Fran Martin, that deal, she responded to my email.
Would it make a difference with Wakefield /
She might be.
It doesn't, it doesn't.
She might be referring to, and just because Zoe did this, and I know, she might be referring to teams as like the two debaters or whatever, that you would never pair up like a Wakefield and a Clay Center person as team. You take multiple teams to the event.
Well, you could, and I'm not saying they can't ride together, can't have the same coach, can't have everything. But when you have a cooperative agreement, you have one team when you go participate at that event.
What I'm saying is though, that she's using team we're using team as a broad sense of it's a Clay Center Wakefield debate team. She's using team as Molly and Jimmy,
Oh, the teachers using the team. is that-
and that's calling them a team.
And that's how they
Because
refer to them in
they work
forensics.
on their, their
Yeah.
counter arguments and stuff,
Right,
and they
right.
build on that the whole season. So she's probably saying, I'm not gonna pair them together as a team, because then at regionals, they won't have that.
They won't be
team,
together.
They
Yeah,
won't be
yeah,
together
yeah.
to have those arguments and things built up over the course of the season.
Or
I
you're
think
practicing a
we're
poetry
getting
or-
different,
We're
the
using
concept,
different words
we're
with
using
different
team
concepts.
different. I think what she's saying is
I
the
see
team
it as
as,
a positive for students that they would get to go to more events.
Which
When I was participating in the forensics and debate extracurricular in high school, you needed options for dates because we had other things going on besides debate and forensics. So offering students more options for weekends to attend the event seems like a positive to me, because those students are very busy or go do other things. And so when you offer them more dates, you're giving them more choices to participate.
Well, and I'm not saying that they can't go to the same meets or anything or ride together or do anything, but in Keisha's eyes, they're one team.
Deb was suggesting that another teacher be given the responsibility at Wakefield. So then they wouldn't
We do
be-
have the
But-
option.
but
But
it's
they
a-
There is,
wouldn't
I have
be given
nothing,
as many opportunities to go to events.
Why wouldn't it?
not
Well,
necessarily,
because
that,
Why were they last year?
Because the teacher that taught the class didn't want to go do it on Saturdays or during the week.
this is a
And
different.
now she
teacher.
no longer
This-
works there.
this
She
is a different
retired.
teacher,
She got
yes.
out.
Okay.
And I was made aware that we do have another teacher that is certified to be able to do that currently teaching at school.
It's
And
important as a school board that we do not become the district administrators, though. And if the administrators have chosen a teacher to be that teacher, we should not, that is not the school board's role.
And I do understand that. And I, just to be clear, I have nothing against the teacher that's teaching forensics. I think that she's wonderful. I think the kids love her. That's not my qualm. My qualm is just like I said, I saw it go down that road with cross country. I would hate to see that happen to forensics. I know the kids wanting to have their own identity and team themselves. And that was why I brought it up when I found out that there was someone else, that we did have another option to have someone that was certified to be able to lead that team, if that's the route that we wanted to go. And I thought that was information that I did not have at the last meeting and that I had now, and I thought that I should share it. And
Forensics is
look at that.
unique because it's not just an after-school extracurricular. It blends between, because the coach or the sponsor is also the teacher. And so a lot of their training practice time is during the school day. And so each school would still participate only as a school, but it is an option. We did not send the cooperative in just in case there was follow-up, because I had some questions. And so you guys have the autonomy to look at this. And if we want to just say, our forensic teacher is the sponsor, she's coaching both teams, they're gonna travel together, we just have to be prepared that we need to tell our teacher she can't practice the kids together ever. That's the only difference. We're just gonna tell her she can't practice together. But, we still have the one sponsor coaching both teams. She'll take them to the events.
So by having a cooperative, that would allow the Wakefield kids to debate against the Clay Center kids and vice versa.
In
And that would
practice.
practice, in practice.
Not
And that
like
would
debate
be,
is
sorry, yeah. And that wouldn't be an option if we make the cooperative.
Yeah, I just asked Greg to, and Mike to get the reason and rationale for why the teacher wanted to come. She had a vision, I don't have a strong preference either way. I just see, the only thing that I'm kind of adamant about is that we utilize the teacher that's teaching both programs to also be the sponsor for both. To me, it doesn't make sense to vary from that, but on the other, we can tell her that she can't practice. That's what you guys want to do.
Also, the main concern is that Wakefield students lose their identity.
And I would be fine if she's okay with that. I would be fine with that if they can have their own team separate. I just see, like I said, down the road that I don't want it to go the route of cross country. I would like it to stay a separate team. And I have, like I said, I have no problem with the traveling together and like the one teacher being the coach. I just think that the students should be able to have autonomy, should be able to have their own identity.
I'll do whatever you guys say.
I just feel like we need to be efficient with our resources. And make sure that what we're doing is for the best of students. Now, I would argue that maybe the reason that cross-country has dropped at Wakefield isn't so much just because it was a cooperative. The numbers have dropped in Clay Center too. There's just not as many kids going out.
Well, the travel was big.
Being able to do two sports, because you guys used to be able to do both, right? Volleyball and cross-country at the same time.
Yes,
So,
but the traveling, the parents getting them to practices and things
yeah,
like
they
that
practiced,
was.
they practiced in Wakefield. At
not
least some of the time. They had,
My kid went to Wakefield, oh my God.
and, or that the Wakefield kids would be given, like, this is your workout. So they didn't have to come up to Clay Center to practice, but that's a different event. I just, I really liked that this is a great example of how we can be efficient with the resources that we have available. I mean, I guess it would benefit the teacher because if we separate the cooperative agreement, we'll be paying her a separate supplemental contract because she'll be coaching two teams. So essentially that's.
So we're not going to share practices. We don't have as many opportunities available.
Well,
Wait,
They could go to the same events.
They
They could
So you're
transport
saying that they
together.
didn't because the teacher prior didn't want to.
Well, I assume, yeah, and she's no longer in the teaching profession, so.
Right.
No, I'm pretty sure that that's why they didn't go, because she didn't want to go. If this gal is taking over and she wants to take them kids to 13 events, that's part of her job, because that's a class that she teaches on a daily basis come next semester. I mean, it's part of her job to take them to those events, just like it is for Clay Center. I mean, if she's teaching that class as a class, then taking them to those deals, to those events is part of that. So if she's gonna take Clay Center to 13.
Teaching the classes under her.
Okay, but I'm saying if she's gonna take Clay Center to 13, why wouldn't she take her other class to 13?
That's why we were just.
But the supplemental covers the travel.
Well,
Her
that's
teaching
fine.
position
I can't
is
believe the
under teaching.
supplemental is that much money. Difference.
It's for gas. to do that.
No, I mean, the bottom line here is we're saving money on a supplemental contract for Wakefield. That's the bottom line. That's all we're doing if we do the cooperative agreement. That's the
I
bottom
thought
line.
it
I
was to
thought it
maybe move
was-
us towards away from us versus them, and that we are one district. Let's start acting like one district.
That's really where I'm
I mean,
most
if,
upset about.
and if we want to, I mean, in my vision down the road, like, let's have opportunities in Wakefield that are not in Clay Center and get kids from Clay Center to go to Wakefield. Let's make it the best mechanical shop we have. Let's make it the best woodworking we can. Let's make it so that the students get the best they can in our district, and who cares what building they're driving to. That's how I feel. And like, this was just one step in the right direction. But if it's that passionate to you guys that we need to separate and draw the lines in the sand, then we'll do it. You know, I'm not gonna hang myself on that rope, but I was excited that we were maybe moving towards what's best for the kids as a district wide. So.
From hearing from my area, the teamwork was a big deal. It was a big deal that we were losing our sense of teamwork as a school.
But I could be wrong, but I was told last month that there were 4 students at Wakefield. Is that right? That are in forensics?
I don't.
They're enrolled in
They're
forensics?
at this point.
They're enrolled in forensics.
Yeah,
So
at
I
this
think,
point.
again, the teacher, I would like to support the teacher. The teacher wanted this. She felt it was in the best interest of all the students. And she thinks that there will be more opportunities for the students if those 4 students had other choices.
Yeah, but they're gonna have the same choices. That's what we just talked about.
That's
They're
not
gonna
how
have the
forensics
same.
works. You can do doubles and like it's just not.
I mean, so what we're saying is if we do this, if we dissolve what we had said we were going to do, they won't practice together. Is that correct? They can't.
Right.
They cannot practice together. Which I don't know, I was never in forensics or debate, but is that helpful for those students to be able to practice with?
Is there a timeline that like, is there a timeline that this would have to be decided? Would it be helpful for the teacher to give the pros and cons to us, like at the next board meeting?
I think we're already late submitting the
We're already,
because it has to go to education.
we just table it till next year.
That's up to you guys.
We would have to,
If we've
there's
already-
not
we'd
been
have
a
to
motion on the
rescind it.
table.
I'm just saying that we've already missed the deadline for vacation.
That's my understanding.
And what if we saw how it worked as separate teams for this year? And if,
What if we worked and saw how it worked as a cooperative?
It's too late to do the cooperative,
That's not,
according to what Brett's saying. Because he hasn't sent the paperwork in to Keisha.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
we've surpassed their due date, but they still accept it.
My 2 cents is we let the administration, the teachers decide what's best, and that's not our job. And I will probably always go along with what the teachers recommend and the administration for our students. So that's where I land. We can, I mean, if somebody wants to make a motion, you're more than welcome to do so.
I would like to make a motion to table the cooperative agreement this year. And revisit it next year. After we see how this year goes.
And I think, just for clarification, You wouldn't be tabling the cooperative.
I'm
agreement,
sorry,
it would be to
rescinding,
rescind.
rescinding the cooperative agreement.
I'll second that.
Can I ask a clarifying question? What does that mean? Like, does that mean not doing the cooperative? I understand that part, but what is, just for clarification, are you saying then we hire another person, or we still have the teacher taken? Like, what are the consequences of the action, I guess, or the effects of the action?
Teacher's still gonna do what, I mean, she's gonna take them.
Is that the intent of the motion is what I'm
Yes.
clarifying?
Yes, I would think.
Yes.
Teacher would still do what she was gonna do. Other than they can't practice together. What's that?
She can't do what she wanted to do if you rescind the cooperative. That's.
So the
that's
only
clear.
difference is she can't practice, put them two teams together and practice. That's the only thing that she
One of my
can't
seven
do.
teams.
Other than that, she can do everything that she wants to do within kids in those classes. And I don't know why they would want to, well, other than to maybe bounce things off each other, but they can't compete. You can't have a kid from Clay and a kid from Wakefield
It is
compete in
not.
something together, because when it comes to regionals, they're not gonna be together. They're gonna be separate.
It is not in the best policy of a school board to determine specific directions of a teacher. I don't tell the football coach how to
Well,
coach their
Paige,
team.
then tell us what we're supposed to do.
I just
She's
did.
stating her opinion, and so are you. We all have opinions, and there's a motion, a second on the table. Any further questions? If not, let's vote. Andy,
What-
the motion is to rescind the cooperative as it was presented.
For this year,
For
for
this
this
year.
period.
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Linda? No. Paige,
No.
Jeff,
Yes.
April, no. Motion carries 4-3. Okay, we'll move on to, I believe, we're moving on to executive session, so we'll take about a 3 to 5 minute break, so if anybody needs anything signed, we'll do that. We're going to move into executive session at this time. So I move we go into executive session to discuss private personnel matters pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under KLMA. The open meeting will resume at, let's go 8:15 in this room. The executive session will include the board superintendent council. Motion, second. Motion is second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. And we'll do roll call. Okay, we're back for one more. I move we go into executive session to discuss a student matter pursuant to the actions adversely or favorably affecting students exception under KOMA. The open meeting will resume. Let's do, it's 9 minutes. Let's do 8:25. Here in the boardroom, the executive session will include the board superintendent and council. Second motion, second, all 7-0. Yeah, okay, all right. We're back then to discuss the personnel report. Questions from anyone? Also the supplemental. If not, I'll move to approve the personnel report, including supplemental updates as presented.
There's one question I have is when are the teachers gonna get the contracts?
Usually by November or so, we get those out. I don't know. There was some complications with some software, but they're in the works. They're coming. And one thing to remember with certified staff, they're always on a continued contract.
They're all board approved in May.
And that's a continued contract. So they have one. Whether it's in paper. Most of the districts that I worked in, it was November, mid to late November by the time I had my paper copy. They've been a little bit faster, I think, in years past. I don't know if you want to elaborate any.
Since we switched to Skyward, it's a little different. We wait until we have everybody's salary movement, until we have everything. They don't get paid for the first time, the teachers, until the September payroll. So in the past, I think there was times where their contracts were out like the end of July or the beginning of August, but we don't have that information in Skyward until closer to
get their new-
September. Yeah. And we've made a change as well. Previously, they weren't able to see from their employee access point of view, their step and level. You would think they'd probably know where they were, but we have made it so that they can look that up and then look at the salary schedule and find their placement if they don't know what their contracted amount would be for the year.
So that they can go in their employee access and see that. I
Yeah,
didn't
we've
know
had some questions. People have asked where their contract was because they wanted to know their salary amount, and so we made it available to them to see their step and level. And they can check the salary schedule.
Is there a motion?
Second.
I have a second, and we'll vote by roll. April, yes. Jeff,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Paige,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Debbie.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. And move